We didn't go anywhere. We went everywhere. A lot has changed this year, but let me tell you what hasn't. We are still for our neighbors, and Jesus is still making our city new. Not being inside the church ended up being the thing that let us become the church. Our door got bigger, our table got wider, and our garden grew. And next year, we'll still be right here. Well, I should say, out there. Merry Christmas.
We have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Welcome to our very special online Christmas Eve service. My name is Mita, Aquino, and I'm the Children's Ministry Coordinator.
And I'm Ken Ingold, one of the pastors here at the church at RB. Thanks so much for joining us from wherever you may be watching today. We know this service is being watched in many ways, on many devices, in many rooms, all across the city and all over our country. Because, well, church moved out of the church this year, didn't it? It moved into our living rooms, into our neighborhoods, and into our parks. If you think about it, it's a lot like the story we celebrate at Christmas, that the Word became flesh, that God became human in the form of a baby and moved into the space where we live.
I love thinking about it that way, Ken. Hey, here at the church, we believe Jesus is good news for the neighborhood. And we live that out by being good neighbors. We've got a really wonderful service for us to watch together. We're going to continue to sing some incredible songs. We're going to hear a great message from Pastor Jared, but we're also going to take a moment to celebrate how we've embodied that good neighbor idea this year. So please stay tuned after the message because Pastor Nate is going to share some of the good news and tell you how you can participate in 2021 by contributing to our impact offering today.
We hope you enjoy our online service, and we hope it brings you and your family a sense of peace and joy this year.
Merry Christmas.
In the sky, stars dance across the desert dry. The world's still and waiting for the dawn when hope was born. The grace of the Father had a plan, the place of His Son in Bethlehem. No one knew the greatness of this child when hope was born. We sing glory, glory to the God Most High. Peace on earth you will provide. We sing glory, glory to the God Most High. When heaven met earth that night, hope was born. They may come and go. A child brought a timeless victory. Oh, the star in the sky, while the angels sing high to Jesus, our newborn King. We sing glory, glory to the God Most High. Peace on earth you will provide. We sing glory, glory to the God Most High. When heaven met earth that night, hope was born. Your glory revealed from the start. Heaven took earth and claimed my heart. Love undeserved rescued me when hope was born. Your glory revealed from the start. When heaven took earth and claimed my heart. And love undeserved rescued me when hope was born.
Well, welcome back and Merry Christmas. I hope you are having a fantastic Christmas Eve so far. This is a time of year where the whole world stops and celebrates Christmas. The last week of December, at 1,000 different levels, for 1,000 different reasons, we celebrate Christmas. We stop, we remember that light has shattered darkness, that something has happened in the world, that the divine is here, that God is with us. And it's a time of year where everybody seems to be, maybe for different reasons, recognizing that there's a magic in the air. Christmas is in the air. Starbucks is on the same page as the church. The church is on the same page as your Nana. Everybody wants to get bundled up and dress like those burglars from Home Alone and go look at Christmas lights, whether you're a Christian or not. There's just something about this time of year where there's an energy, there's a spirit to it. And I say that at the same time, recognizing that we don't all celebrate Christmas for the same reasons. As Christians, we celebrate Christmas because we believe that it's true. This is true for us as followers of Jesus. We celebrate Christmas today because, well, we believe, and maybe you're watching this right now and you're only watching it because your aunt, is promised you a corned hen later if you just watch church for, 45 minutes or so. So just hang with me, but this is what we believe. We believe that God in a body showed up into this world. And this is what this entire time of year is about for us as Christians. We believe it's true, but at the same time, there is a temptation and there is a tendency for me, for us as Christians, for the story to be true, but sentimental. That we sentimentalize the story. It's so traditional for us that it loses the power to address us. The great theologian Dallas Willard once said, something can be so familiar that in time it becomes unfamiliar to us. And isn't it true that is true often at Christmas, that we sing joy to the world, we sing hark the herald angels sing, but these songs, we sort of spray paint the manger with glitter, and it's sentimental. It's something we can dismiss, and it ceases to be personal to us. It ceases to address us. And I think that's the challenge of this year for us as Christians, that or any year at Christmas. How do we make this story that is so familiar to us still powerful and personal, and not just allow it to be sentimental? At the same time, we know that there's a lot of folks in the world that they'll celebrate Christmas, but for a lot of the world, in fact, I would say for most of the world, it's not true. It's not a story that God showed up in a bod, and maybe this is kind of your position as you think about Christmas, or you celebrate Christmas, or you wear a reindeer sweater. It's not true. I mean, how in the world could God, first off, to even believe there's a God, maybe for you that's a very strange foreign concept. In an iPhone, Google world, how does anybody believe that? And I had somebody tell me recently, if there is a God, Jared, let's be honest, he has forgotten about this world. He's left this world to its own devices. And to believe that the membrane between here and there is thin enough that God pierced it at Christmas and he came into this world in a body, well, for most of the world, the default position of our society is, well, it's not true, but they celebrate it because it's inspirational. And that's true for most people at Christmas time. The songs, the cups you get at Starbucks, the snowflakes, the way in which everybody seems to be a little more cheery. It's inspirational. Something about a baby coming into the world. It's the one Christmas story, or the one biblical story that you read because, well, it's nice. It's not true, but it's inspirational. To which I would say, have you ever read the story? You can't dismiss this story as just nice inspiration. When you read the story, you can do that with other biblical stories. You can read the story of David and Goliath and say, well, that's so inspirational. You should go face your fears. You can do that with even Jonah and the whale. You shouldn't run from God. There's a certain practicality to that story. But you cannot do that with the Christmas story. This is not a story of inspiration. Just on the surface, if you just lift it out of the scriptures and you read it, it is a story about, from all appearances, two teenagers who have had a child or having a baby out of wedlock, which makes them rebels in their society, which puts her life, especially Mary's life, in danger in their society. And now they're refugees on the run, not even in their native land, and they're not quite sure where they're going to have a baby, and they end up in a barn, and for some strange reason, we have romanticized the barn. But I mean, let's be honest, childbirth in the 21st century in a hospital is a traumatic experience. Could you imagine in the first century in a barn of all places? Don't give me any of the Silent Night business. It's not an inspirational story that you look at and you go, oh, I want to end up like that. It's for the first century audience especially, it was a terrifying story. There was grit to this story. It certainly wasn't a story you read just to sort of cheer you up or to make you feel better. Don't dismiss the story as just inspiration. And the reason why I say that, sentimentality and inspiration, is because, I mean, this time of year, here's a challenge for all of us. Don't settle for sentiment. If you're a Christian, the easy thing to do is to sentimentalize the story and to not let the story of the birth of Jesus, Emmanuel, God in a bod, God in this world, God with us. The difficult thing to do is to not let it become personal to us and address us and begin to take up residence in our heart. At the same time, don't dismiss the story as inspiration. It's easy to do that, isn't it? That's how most people read the story. It's just inspiration. But this is not a story that's designed to make you feel better. This is a story that's actually designed to make you better, to make you a brand new kind of person, because Jesus came for the purpose of transformation. He didn't come for the purpose of inspiration to make you feel better this time of year, to give you a little pick-me-up. He didn't come into this world just so you can have a tradition and a sentimentality that you look back and go, wow, that's so great. God came into this world. And just to spray paint it with glitter and move on. He came for the purpose of transformation, that you and I would know God with us, Emmanuel. And it becomes shockingly personal. God came close enough that we could hear him breathe. And if we miss that, the story ceases to be as transformational as it is intended to be, as true as it's intended to be. Let's just read the story. There's this iconic verse that we read every Christmas around here, and I want to read this. We've been looking at this the last couple of weeks as a church, but I want to read this together. Matthew chapter 1, verse 22, and we're going to connect this to some of the Old Testament passages in just a moment, but it said, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. You know, the prophets had spoken of this day, this moment would come. And the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. God with us is the name that God has chosen to take up residence. As Eugene Peterson said, Jesus has moved into the neighborhood. He is in our midst. And it's easy to read that story from our 21st century perch and to golf clap it. It's easy to sentimentalize it. It's easy to inspirational, just put it on the inspirational shelf. It's difficult to read this from the Old Testament perspective, but for the first century audience, that's all they would have. And if you think about this story from the eyes of Moses or from anybody who encountered God, this is a terrifying story that God is with us. Think about the story of Abraham. When anybody in the Old Testament would encounter God, it was a life-altering, transforming event. When Abraham encounters God, he's not a baby in a manger. He's a blazing fire. When Moses encounters God, he's a blazing fire in a bush. Later in the story of Exodus, Moses encounters God and he has to hide in a rock and he can't even see God. In fact, God tells Moses in Exodus 33, you cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live. Merry Christmas, everybody. To encounter God, these are called theophanies in the Old Testament. When somebody sees God, sees the divine, a theophany, an encounter with God, and every single time they're transformed. They're terrified. It's to see God, the glory of God. He's so other. You don't just golf clap it. You don't sentimentalize it. You don't just say it's inspirational. It does something to you. You keep going in the story. The parents of Samson, if you remember that story, the guy who killed all those people with the jawbone of a donkey. his parents saw God. His father Manoah said this, and Manoah said to his wife after they encountered God, "We shall surely die because we have seen God." Probably the most classic passage of scripture is the prophet Isaiah. When he sees God, Isaiah chapter 6 says it this way: "In the year that King Uzziah died," this is Isaiah, "I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple." And so the image that you get is a bride with the train of her wedding gown flowing down the altar. This is the picture of God. The train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, and this image freaks me out, man. Seraphim are angels, and each has 6 wings. And with 2 wings, they covered their faces. So even the angels, and these are the highest ranking angels in the celestial army of God, by the way, and they are covering their faces because they know to be with God, to see God. It changes you, it transforms you. With 2, they covered their feet, and with 2, they were flying. Just get a picture of that. And they were calling to one another, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory." At the sound of their voices, the doorpost and the threshold shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. This is what happens when God shows up. "Woe to me," the prophet Isaiah said. "I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. And my eyes," God is so holy, he's so others. He says in Isaiah 55, "His ways are not my ways, and my eyes have seen this king, have seen the king, the Lord Almighty." In the book of Job, God shows up as a hurricane, a whirlwind. He's a terrifying image when you see God, and it changes you, it terrifies you in the Old Testament when you have a theophany and an encounter with God. And somehow, I mean, think about this. And we read it again from our 21st century perch and we sentimentalize it. Oh, that's nice inspiration. That's not how Moses would read Emmanuel. I mean, just think about this story from any Old Testament, Isaiah's perspective, from Moses' perspective. I mean, just think about this for a second. If they heard those words, God with you, Moses would say, "I'm not so sure that's good news for you." Moses would say, "God with us." You need a different preposition. Maybe God above you, maybe God around you, but God with us, that floods the room with smoke. That's a terrifying experience. And yet Christmas says this God has drawn near to us. This God has become a baby to be near to you and I for the purpose, it's the same, to transform us, to make us a different kind of person, to make us different kind of people when we encounter this God. I think everybody wants some kind of encounter with God, some kind of experience with God in their life. Or at least we want to know it's possible. We want to romanticize the story of the paranormal. It's the story of your aunt who saw an angel one time. Every year, and I'm not knocking it, but the best-selling books on the New York Times are stories of people who died and went to heaven and they came back. And we all kind of want a story like that, just to know the paranormal or the divine is out there, and it's always possible. And there's something else in this world that's it's not us, not just us down here. That God's out there somewhere. We want to have that kind of vague understanding of God, an encounter with God maybe at some point. But that's not how God showed up. He didn't come that you would have some kind of paranormal story. I mean, think about these words, Emmanuel, God with us. God with us. That means that God has come to transform you, to transform me, to walk among you, to walk among us, that you, just like those in the Old Testament, could be with God, could experience God and be transformed. Because God with us, not to have an encounter with God and say, fantastic, but to be different, to be transformed by this story of Emmanuel, God with us. The great theologian John Stott wrote a book several years ago called Basic Christianity. And in it, he said, when this baby, Jesus, grows up, everybody who interacts with the divine, everybody who interacts with Jesus, they have one of 3 experiences. They are either angry. I mean, you read those stories, the Pharisees, they plot to kill him. or they're in terror when they encounter Jesus. Or the third response is they worship him. But nobody gets to walk away from Jesus and just say, well, that was nice and inspirational, or that was sentimental, and let's just kind of keep some glitter on that story. You have to be transformed by Emmanuel. C.S. Lewis in the 20th century said it this way, and this is a classic line that he uses, but you have three responses when it comes to Jesus. You either call him a liar and say he's not who he claimed to be. He's not God, and he's with us, but he's not God. Or you can call him a lunatic, and you can say he thought he was God, but he was not God. He was wrong. He was insane. And most scholars and most even spiritual teachers from Gandhi on down the list would say he certainly was not insane. He certainly was not a lunatic. I mean, the things that he said were so poetic and profound. They've altered the scope of government for the last 2,000 years. And C.S. Lewis goes on to say there's a third response, but these are your only three options. You either call him a liar, you call him a lunatic, or you fall down at his feet and you worship him and you call him Lord. You have to be transformed. Those are your only options when Emmanuel, God, shows up into your life and into my life. That's the shocking nature of this story. That he wants to be, this blazing fire in the altar wants to be a baby and be with us. And I think we all hear it and we go, well, why did God show up as a baby, for crying out loud? What a strange way to come into the world. Why did he come in the way that they would have expected for him to come? As a blazing fire, as a whirlwind, as something that we all stood back and said, aha, it must be God. And for all of us, whether you're a Christian or not, this is just true. And I think this is why Jesus comes into the world the way that he comes into the world. See, you and I, we will be transformed the most by what we expect the least. Isn't that true in your life? It's true in mine. You will be transformed the most by what you expect the least. Think about the presents that you've received in your life. It's not the things that you thought you were going to get that made you smile or gave you a great sense of joy. It's not when everything went according to plan that transformed you or changed you. It's those unexpected, serendipitous, I didn't see it coming moments, for better or worse, that actually transform you and transform me. And Jesus comes into the world in a way that nobody would have expected, so that he could transform people in a way that nobody would have expected. He comes into the world as a baby. He comes into this world because he wants to be close enough where we can hear him breathe and he can feel us breathe. And isn't it true? You will be transformed the most in your life by what you expect the least. It's certainly true for 2020, isn't it? Say what you want about this year, but for every single one of us, I promise you, you will be a different kind of person, for better or worse, because of what you have experienced this year. And the reason is because you didn't see it coming. And that's how life works. We get transformed by the unexpected moments. And maybe the question this Christmas, for me, I have to ask this question this time of year. If I'm going to really allow the Christmas story to address me and transform me, once again, am I so in love with my plans? Am I so in love with my opinions about how everything in the world should work that I have no room for something that I don't expect? At the end of the day, and I think this is maybe true for you as well, we get so dogmatic, so fixed in our perspective and our plans of how everything should work, we don't have any room for something that we cannot expect. And in the process, we miss the greatest gifts of life. And if we do that to the Christmas story, we will miss the power of Emmanuel, God with us. Maybe another question this Christmas. Listen, God wanted to draw near to you. He wanted to draw near to me. But let's be honest for a second. Do you want to draw near to God? Or would you rather keep the story at a distance and say that's nice and inspirational? Or even as Christians, would you rather keep the story at a distance and say that's nice and sentimental? And let's just bundle up like those burglars from Home Alone and go look at Christmas decorations and forget about the manger. It cannot do that. If you take the story for what it is, this shocking story, it has to transform you. And the question of Christmas is always the same. God wanted to draw near to you. Do you want to draw near to God? And if you do, you will experience a joy, you will experience a peace, you will experience a love that you have never encountered, but you have desperately needed your whole life. The kind of joy that transforms, the kind of love, and the kind of peace that transforms that only Emmanuel, God, can bring. I hope this Christmas you join me in praying that prayer and saying, God, you came into this world, and I want to draw near to you in the same way you have drawn near to me, so that I can be a different kind of person altogether, so that I can be transformed. Let's pray together. I want to give you an opportunity, if you've heard this story before, but you've always said, yeah, Emmanuel, God is with us, but you've never really wanted to be with God. You've wanted to hear that God's out there. You've wanted to know that God is on your side. You've wanted to know that there's a God somewhere, and if you need God, you can pray, but you've never said, God, with us, transform me. It's always been sentimental. It's always been inspirational, but it's never been personal and transformational. And maybe this Christmas, you want to invite God with you, Emmanuel with you, into your heart. And so from the comfort of your couch, or maybe with your laptop open on a park bench, God can meet with you anywhere. I want to invite you to pray this prayer if you want to receive Christ into your heart for the very first time. And you can just pray these words and repeat them after me. Jesus, I believe Emmanuel, God with us. And God, this Christmas, I want to invite you into my heart. I want to invite you to be as personal as you came to be. And God, I know that you died on a cross, Emmanuel on a cross, to save me from my sins. And I say yes to Emmanuel. I say yes to Jesus. And it's in Jesus' name that I pray. And if you prayed that prayer, even if you're by yourself, I just want to give you a moment to put this moment in stone. Just raise your hand. Just have a moment. There's no card to fill out. There's nothing that I'm not going to walk through the TV screen or walk through your computer, but I just want you to have this moment with your hand up to know that this Christmas, God with you, this Christmas, you are transformed because Jesus came into this world. And for all of us, I hope you and yours have a very Merry Christmas.
Like the frost on a rose,
Hi, everyone. I'm Nate, one of the pastors here at the church at RB. And as you know, we are a church committed to loving our neighbor and serving the most vulnerable people in our community. And over the last few years, we have done that. We have seen people's lives made new. This Christmas season, we've been celebrating the impact the church at RB has made in the last decade. And it has been amazing to see all the people who have contributed and all the places that we have gone together. In the last 10 years, you've directly invested $5.4 million to impact over 175,000 people. We've served our literal neighbors, those who live closest to us, through projects like Serve Day. We've built 16 homes down in Mexico, dug a well in Ghana, and supported our sister church in South Africa. We focused a lot of our attention on serving at-risk youth right here in San Diego to help break that cycle of poverty for vulnerable children. We've helped launch nonprofit organizations like Alabaster Jar Project to empower survivors of human trafficking, and Unite NCI, which feeds food insecure students. All of the outreach over the last decade, all those volunteer hours, and that $5.4 million has all led up to 2020. And wow, what a year it has been, and what an amazing light you have been to our city. You and this church came through to make a meaningful impact on thousands of lives in this pandemic year. And instead of telling you about it, I want to show you.
In the midst of this pandemic, there is such a need here in San Diego County. The church at Rancho Bernardo is stepping up yet again.
This is an opportunity to really reach out and help those who are affected in the community.
The church at Rancho Bernardo held what they called Good Neighbor Day.
The congregation with the church at Rancho Bernardo have stepped up to help others who are facing a food shortage. And their campus pastor has stepped up to help really coordinate all of that efforts.
Your help is needed now more than it has ever been needed. And you all are coming through in such amazing ways.
What you guys have done for us is absolutely phenomenal. The generosity of your congregation is unbelievable. It's blown me away when I got here. Just what you guys do every quarter for our kids, and I'm just like, holy mackerel. It's just amazing to me. So I'm super thankful.
I'm very thankful for the faith-based community. I'm thankful for everything that you're doing to help support our efforts. I see outside your facility today, you're actively doing a food drive. Please keep those supplies coming. We're going to need them.
The one thing I love about the Church of RB is that it's a church of faith, and that faith generates action. You don't live in a building, you live in the community, and you bring your faith to the community.
I just want to thank you guys. We love partnering, and you guys are doing such great work there, and we really value that partnership. It's those kind of partnerships that are going to help us weather the storm.
Thank you for your faithfulness in supporting God's work here at the church at RB. The only way this year and the last 10 were possible was through your generosity. You invested your time, you invested your money, and because of that, lives were transformed. But our work is not done. As you can imagine, the needs in our community have never been greater. The challenges that we face this year have had a huge impact on those who are living below the poverty line. And if we don't step in and help, more children will go hungry, more women will be trafficked, and more at-risk youth will fall through the cracks. And we cannot let that happen. This next year, we have an opportunity to double our impact, to double the number of children we feed, double the number of women that we empower, and double the number of at-risk youth we support. Jesus came to bring peace and prosperity into this world. He came to rescue the most vulnerable and neglected. And now he's entrusted us, you and me, with that mission. He has given us the responsibility to live that out right here in our neighborhood. And as a church, we've always shown up for those who are hurting. This is the DNA of our church. And now we are presented with this new opportunity. And so together, let's rise to the occasion. Let's continue to live lives of generosity as we watch how God uses us to make our community new and to make our world a better place. So to give to the 2020 Impact Offering, please visit crb.gives. You can also drop an envelope off in the mail or drop it off at the church before the end of the year. The nature of joy is to give itself away. Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much for having Christmas Eve with us online. We hope that you have a Merry Christmas and we hope that you have a Happy New Year. We are going to do one of my favorite traditions every year as a church, as the church, and we're going to sing Silent Night together. Now, typically, we would all be in this room and we would light candles and we would hear the voices and we would see the flames across the room. But obviously, we can't do that this year. And so what I'm going to invite you to do, from the comfort of your own home, turn off the lights and go get a candle if you have one close and light a fire and sing this with your loved ones this year. And you can know what we have said from the very beginning of this whole pandemic. You and I can be socially distant but spiritually connected. And I want you to think about this all across this city right now. There will be those singing this song and raising a candle with you, spiritually connected to you. Merry Christmas, everybody, and we will see you in 2021.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, around yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly
to honor him. Pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. When we and lamb kept time.